Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everyone, welcome to our Week 5 podcast. And I say Week 5 because I'm actually going to be out of town this weekend, so we're combining follow-up or wrap-up of Week 4 in with the predictions for Week 5. Yep. So let's get started with how do we do this week. I rode McCaffrey to 2 victories. Surprised I didn't win a third. However, McCaffrey scored more than half of my points, which cost me a chance at a third win. Otherwise, I was the high scorer in our Dynasty League that you and Isaac are in, and yep. Isaac was the second high scorer. And unfortunately, Isaac played me.
Yep.
And he left sometimes. Montgomery and another guy on the bench.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody... Well, not everybody, but a lot of people left Montgomery on their bench because he came off injury and,
didn't expect
wasn't
to do
even
much.
Expecting, he was questionable up until day of the game and
right.
had 32 carries.
Yeah, so. And I actually, the one I did lose in, yep. I did play against Montgomery. Yeah. So I was, already down 30-some points. But unfortunately, the rest of my team took a big old poop.
Yep. Yeah, I went 0-3 this week.
Oh.
Yeah, it was improvement from my team in that Dynasty League that I'm in with Oz. A little higher scoring for me this week. The other Dynasty League, that team's just not very good. I might have to sell a couple pieces and start thinking about maybe a rebuild for the future. And then in the redraft, went into Sunday afternoon up by 30 points. And then Christian McCaffrey happened. So Oz and I were talking, and I've talked with Isaac. I am not a huge fan of Christian McCaffrey just because I've been on the opposite side that people are enjoying right now, where I had him number 1 overall pick both years that he, those 2 consecutive years where he kept getting injured. That weird one with the Panthers that last year where he was hurt, went on IR for 4 weeks, and then came back, and then they put him back on IR like that same week or the week after, so then it ended the season and all that BS.
So he's your kryptonite.
Yeah.
I have a kryptonite also, and it's called Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Because I was in that same situation. Yeah. When I draft him, he does not, like this year, if you drafted him, you're waiting for him to come around.
Yep.
It seems like every year that I drafted him, that's what he was doing. Yeah. And then last year, I passed on him, and he had a monster season.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I feel you.
I mean, you just sometimes that happens, and you can't pick a certain guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's move on to our injuries. First, we've got Buffalo Bills receiver Khalil Shakir. Head injury. He didn't return from back to the game, so it could be a concussion. I have not heard anything yet.
I honestly didn't even know he was in the game. You don't see him a whole lot.
Yeah, they called his name a couple of times. Yeah. Not often, though.
Yep. Yeah, so. I was also driving back from Duluth from a wedding, so
right.
Just had the audio playing. So
by the way, congrats, Nick and Ben.
Yep. Congrats.
Big news. They got married this past weekend, and totally happy for them.
Yep. So.
Next up, we've got T. Higgins, who fractured a rib. He could be out for a while. It's hard to tell. That they're painful.
If anything, he'll be putting the flak jacket on, and which will hinder his mobility a little bit. Which
he's been completely underutilized to this point.
Well, everybody has.
Right. We talked a little bit about it. What do you do about Joe Burrow?
Yep.
In my mind, they need to sit him until he's healthy. And
they need to improve their line as well.
Yeah.
I mean, since he came into the league, you saw that, was that his rookie year or second year where he destroyed his knee because they couldn't protect him? I can't remember what year it was. But, they need to do something there right now. That offense is just it looks broken. I mean, like
Oh,
I said,
yeah,
he's got
yeah.
no mobility in the pocket. They're trying to do all the quick passes, get the ball out of his hand. As a Joe Burrow manager, it would suck to have him sit for a week or two, but also for long term, for rest of season, that's the best thing that they could do at this point.
I mean, we're only 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Most leagues are 13 or 14 regular season games.
Mm-hmm.
You still, I mean, if you're 0-4
Yeah,
and you've got Burrow, you still have a decent chance if he can, take a week and get right.
Yeah,
I think it would help, but it's impacting the whole thing.
Yep.
Jamar Chase is about their best player right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not even close.
Yeah.
Mixon looks bad.
Yeah.
Higgins looks bad. Boyd looks better than Higgins.
Irv Smith has been a nobody,
Right.
normal, which there was a little hype around him. So
Right.
but yeah, like if T Higgins sits, if Burrow doesn't sit as well, if you have to, I think Tyler Boyd obviously steps up. He's always been good when one of them's been out,
has.
but that's also with
With a decent
top tier
Burrow.
quarterback,
Right.
and Burrow when
Right.
he's fully healthy. So that one will be interesting for the Bengals because they've actually have a couple tough matchups coming up in the next couple weeks. There's right now looking ahead looks pretty probable that they may just miss playoffs altogether this season. So
Which would be a big surprise.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Javonte Williams. Came back, injured his hip. Unknown as to how long he might be out or if he'll be out, which is why we've got a guy on our waiver wire, the guy who backed him up. Then we've got Kenny Pickett, knee injury. I guess he really escaped a bad injury.
Yeah, it looked pretty nasty in the replay watching it, kind of twisted up and brought, one of those spinning tackle kind of things,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that means Trubisky in. To me, that feels like a pretty neutral quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I don't think much changes there. I mean, I think Trubisky is a better down the field passer. So, I guess we haven't, because he's been on IR or PUP IR. When is Deontay Johnson getting back? I can't remember.
Oh, he got injured in week 1.
Week 1,
So he went on IR, so he can't come
maybe.
back until after the 5th week. So
okay. Yeah, so
it sounds about right.
yeah, so maybe if with Trubisky in there,
Well,
DFS.
what I heard though is Pickett could practice tomorrow.
Yeah, interesting.
So they don't know right now
Mhm.
what's going on. So
Interesting. Yeah,
it's hard to
okay.
say.
Yeah.
Next up, Pat Freiermuth, hamstring injury, unknown how long. Those hamstrings, depending upon how badly he tweaked it or pulled it, could go on for a few weeks.
Yep.
Maybe sitting. Don't know. I'm not saying he's sitting. Just want to pay attention to that if you're an owner of his.
Yep.
Same thing with Mike Evans. Pulled a hammy. Unknown here.
I saw he got an MRI today just to make sure. Sounded like it was pretty minor. I'm a Mike Evans owner or manager. Luckily, they have their bye week this week, so it gives him plenty of time to rest and heal. Because we know history with Mike Evans and hammies and ankles. They kind of linger with him. They tend to linger with Evans. So hopefully, he has plenty of rest. And like I said, it's a minor hamstring.
So you're calling him soft, is what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, he's been an amazing value so far this year.
Yep.
So I'm not complaining, but I like I said, it is sucks that it happened, but it is fortunate that it is their bye week,
Right.
so he has plenty of time to heal and rest.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
Last on the list is Jahan Dotson, ankle injury, unknown as to how long he might be out. There were other minor injuries that occurred during the games. People went out, came back in. Devontae Adams was out for a little while. There were others, but these are the ones that are potentially causing people to miss some time.
I believe Dotson left and then came back. And he ended up with 9 targets and a touchdown, but it was late in the game for him to amass his numbers because I picked him up as like a bench stash for this week with the bye weeks. So I got Amari Cooper and Mike Evans on bye. So, 2 of my receivers, and my bench was full of running backs, potential, filler running backs.
So while we're on that, do you know the 4 teams? It's Cleveland, it's Tampa, it's Seattle.
And then I cannot think of who the other one is.
I didn't write it down, and I should have.
Yeah.
Now that we're into buys, it completely,
I'll take a quick peek. So if we can roll into our...
Yep, let's move into our studs. First stud is none other than Christian McCaffrey, plus 24.59 points. He caught 7 of 8 targets for 71 yards and a touchdown. He had 20 rushes for 106 yards and 3 more touchdowns. He leads fantasy football in scoring. As long as McCaffrey is not injured, I think that whatever team he's on, the offense runs through him. And they've got some really good receivers. Yet McCaffrey is the main player there.
Yep. Yeah. He another podcast that I listened to called him the new LT, LaDainian Tomlinson. He can do it all. He's getting 6-7 targets or more a game, putting up 70 receiving yards, receiving touchdown, 3 scores on the ground. He could have had a 5th, but they were trying to get Juszczyk a touchdown, and then Brock Purdy ran it in, I believe. At that point he could have had an even bigger day, put him over that 50 mark for, a full PPR league. He's just, healthy this year, which has been the main thing with McCaffrey. So if he stays healthy, he's going to end up just being the one overall. Everything. Up until late last year, I did not want him on any of my teams, and I made 2 trades for him. One in the league I've been in for a long time, and the other one in the Dynasty League. Mm-hmm. And then this year, I had the 1 and the 3 pick in my 2 redrafts. Yeah, Christian. Yeah, and I think he tie or broke Jerry Rice's record for consecutive touchdowns with like 13 weeks in a row or something like that. So, very good. Yeah. That's all you got to say. Very good. The other team that's on bye is the Chargers.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I do have 1 player from that team. So, then we have David Montgomery, plus 22.9. He caught both of his targets for 20 yards, had 32 rushes for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he beat me.
Beat you in fantasy and in real life because we're Packers fans. He came out and the Jared Goff threw that pick right away, and I was like, oh, sweet. Like, we got, right away killing any hype, momentum the team had, and then fell apart. Yeah,
couldn't score a touchdown.
Anything. Yeah, so,
offense was... And then of course, they come back and they get to that point where they're saying, "Oh, we're going to get back into this game," and
it just didn't happen.
Right. Well, and then you blame Quay Walker for the but I don't. We weren't going to win the game.
Yep.
So
everybody's I've been seeing a lot of stuff about him. Who is twice now against the Lions? It's like, well,
and it's like everyone else said, it would be great if we had 10 Quay Walkers on the team because you'd win every week.
Yep.
Next up, we have Nico Collins, plus 22.39, 7 of 9 catches, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Surprising and not surprising. Yeah. He seems to be Stroud's favorite target.
And Stroud's been the best rookie quarterback so far. He's looked really good. He's putting up really good numbers.
Well, he's so accurate at throwing. I actually, I drafted him in my in our Dynasty League.
Yep.
with my first round pick because someone took Smith and Jigba right in front of me.
Which hasn't been helping at all right now.
No.
Long-term,
Well, although
yes.
I'm not playing C.J. Stroud either.
Well, yeah.
I've got two other quarterbacks that I play in the Superflex. But, he's obviously a decent quarterback. He looks like he's going to be a good player. So
yeah, the Houston team's been surprising so far.
Right.
They, kicked Pittsburgh right in the teeth. They dominated that game, which surprising given Pittsburgh's defense. But their offense couldn't do anything. Houston's been surprising this year. You have Tank Dell flashing. He's been pretty solid. Had a down week. Dalton Schultz caught a touchdown, but it wasn't from Stroud. It was from Devin Singletary. They pulled some
that's right.
weird
That's
double
right.
pass, or like Derrick Henry. This year threw for a touchdown, or this week threw for a touchdown. So. Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't see McCaffrey throw for a touchdown. Didn't he do that one time last week? Catch, run, and throw?
Last season? Yeah, I think
right
that was
toward the end of the
last
season.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Stephon Diggs plus 21.18. He was 6 of 7 for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, it was in the end zone. Not that he was anywhere near the end zone when he was catching the ball. But
I think his second one, he should have only had 2 touchdowns.
Right.
They drew a PI, pass interference, still caught the ball and ran it, shrugged off a defender. Two defenders ran into the end zone.
Yeah.
So, he also, I think early in the game drew a 40-something yard, defensive pass interference as well. So he's just one of those guys too that's just so good. I'm a huge Diggs fan for fantasy. Gabe Davis caught a touchdown, but as long as Diggs gets his, I don't get too worried about Gabe Davis. It's when it's the other way around.
Davis was 3 of 3 for 61 and a touchdown. It wasn't huge, but he does.
Solid,
I wish some of those looks would go to Dalton Kincaid. Next up, we've got AJ Brown plus 20.58. He was 9 catches on 13 targets, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was, that game was interesting. They did not look good.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to lose.
Right. That offense hasn't looked the same as I know they've got a new coordinator and everything, but basically all the same pieces aside from Miles Sanders. Dallas Goedert's been objectively bad for fantasy, so far. And then AJ Brown had that really bad week, and then was, him and Jalen, competitor, just kind of going at each other a little bit, and then now he's had 2 very good weeks in a row.
Right. I enjoy playing him.
Yeah.
Our duds. First, we have Joey Burrow, and it's interesting. You see a trend here. Mm-hmm. It's Burrow, Pickett, Jones, Carr, Geno Smith. So it's all quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Burrow was minus 13.63, 6'5", 20 of 30 for 165 yards, 3 rushes for 1 yard. Not going to get it done.
No. He's been killing me.
And I'd like, people are saying after, when did he hurt himself? Week 1 or 2? He re-injured?
2, end of week 2, I believe. Yeah.
I would have sat him in 3 and possibly 4 and then started bringing him back. But, they've just lost since then, and they don't look like they're together.
Yeah, well, especially this week, I being the Burrow manager, you look at this week, they're playing Tennessee. Tennessee's run defense is very good. Their pass defense, not so good.
Yep.
It's a team that you are supposed to be able to throw on, and very successfully. So I was holding out hope this was going to be a better week for Burrow. I wasn't expecting it to be from here on out. He's amazing again, but just in a very plus matchup. Was expecting that, and only 10 incompletions, I guess, is probably about the only bright spot. Dimly lit spot, if you will. But for 165 yards and no touchdowns,
you're hoping for
they
more.
only scored 3 points. They just it was just bad. They looked so bad out there. So. Burrow's a tough
It's
Yeah, like
interesting
it's a
that
tough
some of the top
situation.
teams that you'd expect to be playing well
Mm-hmm.
are not playing that well this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, and granted, you look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia has looked off.
But
They're 4-0.
Yeah, they're winning games.
Right, right. So it's like I said about one of the teams in one of my fantasy leagues, whose running backs are Connor and Jerick McKinnon, and the guy's 4-0. So you can't, obviously he's doing something right in spite of having no running backs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Sometimes.
Next up, we've got Pickett, minus 12.49. He was 15 of 23 for 114 yards and interception, 2 rushes, 9 yards. Again, not going to get it done.
Yeah.
Trubisky came in at the end.
All I saw was the
It must have been
clip
at the
of
end.
Pickett getting injured, so I didn't watch any of that game. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, we already talked about it. Maybe Trubisky will be playing depending upon the injury. If you're a Pickett manager, stay on top of that.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Mac Jones, minus 11.78, 12 of 21 for 150 yards, 2 interceptions, 3 rushes, 7 yards. Another team that you would have thought would be better, and they've just come out and looked horrible.
Yeah, I mean, that one too. I mean, Mac Jones is middle tier quarterback, and they were also in Dallas,
Yep.
and I think that was like one of the worst losses of Belichick's career.
Yeah.
It's just, that was a ugly game for New England. So, and they got the Saints this week too, so probably another down week, because that Saints defense is very good. I don't see it getting any better.
No. Nope.
So.
Next up, we have Derek Carr, minus 10.79, 23 of
crazy.
37, 127 yards, 2 rushes, 1 yard.
Yeah, he shouldn't have. I don't know why he played this week with his shoulder. That. Granted, Jameis Winston came in through 1 pass and it was a pick. It's Jameis Winston, but you give him the whole game, I think the outcome would have been different. But the fact that Derek Carr completed 23 passes, but only for 127 yards,
Right.
That's like didn't make it in the studs. I'm sure he was probably just outside a couple spots, but Alvin Kamara coming back.
What did he have, 13
yards
targets? And
for
caught
like
all 13 of them.
32 or 33 yards.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Right.
That's impossible.
Right.
You can't,
Well, it's like I was thinking when you were saying, Carr had 127 on 23. It's all of those little, the pitch right in front of him. And I don't think it was, but there were obviously a lot of screenplays and a lot of checkdowns and everything that caused it to be so low.
Yeah, which, another person who was probably just outside for the duds was Chris Olave.
Oh, yeah.
He had,
yeah.
for
What do you have,
my
like 1
wife's
point?
team had 1 point because Derek Carr could not throw the ball downfield.
Right.
Like I said, I get Carr's a gritty, tough, grinded out kind of quarterback, but New Orleans, why? He shouldn't have been in that game.
Right.
They sent him a week, and you get Jameis Winston in there who can throw the ball down the field. Granted, he throws picks, but it brings another level to your offense. That was just a stupid decision by the team and Derek Carr to go out there.
The head coaches, they sit there and they think that we can't afford to lose this game. But can you afford to continue to have your players stay injured, potentially, by running them out there before they're ready to play?
Yeah. I.e. Bengals with Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are teams out there that, last year, Tua, after the first concussion, rushing him back out there, letting him play. Start thinking about, again, we're 4 weeks in. I'm 2-2, 3-1, and 3-0-1. That 2-2 team is tied for first place right now in our division.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not time to panic. It's not time to trade everything away, and that's what these guys should be doing too. There's 17 weeks in the regular season. You win 9 or 10, you're more than likely making the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you hobble through 6 of those and lose 5 of them, you're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think for like the Bengals again with Burrow, it's so tough because it really feels like their window for making that push into late season, late playoffs, even Super Bowl potentially is starting to close. Like we said, Joe Mixon looks bad.
But if you had taken Burrow out after game 2 and let him sit for 2 games,
yeah, the outcome of those games is probably the same. They
Right.
would have lost, and Burrow would be coming back in another, either this coming week or next week or the week after potentially, hopefully fully healthy or at least 95% healthy, and
make a run at it.
yes.
Now you're
like
in the
I said,
same position you were in 2 weeks ago.
But you have a fully healthy Joe Burrow. But granted, like I said, that team needs some help up front.
Agreed.
Kind of like New York.
Oh yeah, the Giants
need
are
Yeah.
so horrible up front. It's not even. I mean, so many injuries. Players were out again. Additional players went out last night.
Yep.
It was sad to see Danny Dimes get sacked so many times, and they weren't his fault.
Yeah, Dable getting in his face, tripping at him for throwing an interception.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it was a bad pick, but
It was, but
it's
he
like-
also expected the guy to go a different way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's hard to blame that on a quarterback when he makes the read before the guy makes the cut, and then the guy doesn't cut the way he expected him to. So
Yeah.
let's move on to we have one more. Geno Smith, minus 10 points, 13 of 20 passing, 110 yards, 1 touchdown.
He got banged up in that game as well.
He did.
Got
And-
kind of rolled up on out of bounds, like pretty far out of bounds.
But he
And
was
then a little
the
scuffle
tackle,
broke out.
but the tackle was occurring
yes, it was
inbounds.
initiated inbounds. And
It just so happens
way-
that the way that he was tackled was similar to a horse collar. Not that there was anything illegal about the tackle. I'm saying that he ended up back on his ankles and knees being pulled back, which is it stretches a lot of things out. Can run, can hurt the both either ankle. He was, I think, very frustrated. He was very upset.
Yep.
And cost his team 15 yards and sportsmanlike. You got to be smarter than that.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yep. Yeah, I would just chalk that one up to the getting banged up and being frustrated. I mean, in plus matchups, he's still going to be very good, for fantasy, with the weapons they have there. Kenneth Walker yet again another touchdown.
Yep.
I should just keep rolling with Walker as my start of the week until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the waiver wire. So one of my favorites is Nico Collins, wide receiver of Houston. He may be on some teams. I'm sure again, it depends on how deep your league is, what format you have. But I like it. Well, obviously Stroud likes him in that offense.
Yeah.
Stroud looks his way a lot. Next, we've got Jaleel McLaughlin. Came in for Javonte Williams when he got hurt and had a monster game.
Yeah,
I mean,
looked
he had a really good
too.
game.
That's a guy, Sean Payton brings his name up a lot, talks about him. They brought Pirine in. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't looked like what he did last season with the Bengals, filling in or even coming in on third downs for, Mixon. So, a guy, if Javonte sits, a guy that could be a good potential, just a start, for a week or two here, to fill in, especially if you got like a bye. You got Eckler on bye or something like that. Or
Right.
I have White, stuff
I have
like
a
that.
feeling that he'll be the number one player taken in my 16 team,
Oh, for
two
sure.
running back league
For
on waivers this week.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Michael Wilson, wide receiver from Arizona, who I don't remember if I drafted him or I just picked him up after the draft in our dynasty. So he sits on my taxi squad. No interest in bringing him up yet unless he does that a few more times. But he's obviously getting the looks from Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, and Dobbs has been playing pretty good. I'm in a situation with Burrow.
Right.
Granted, they're playing Arizona this week, so Dobbs is playing Cincinnati, who got beat up by Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I'm in a position thinking, do I pick up Dobbs and stream him and let Burrow prove it? Or
I'd highly consider it.
That's such a weird thing. Dobbs has been playing good. They're a scrappy, gritty, fight it out team. I mean, they're actually, they're playing hard. They came out and shocked Dallas, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Played pretty good against San Fran for that first, half even. They're a team that comes out and plays, and Michael Wilson is, it's 2 weeks now. Has been pretty good. Had the 2 touchdowns this week.
Right.
Arizona's a team that everybody was like, oh, they're going to be just, definitely number one. Oh, here comes Caleb Williams. All this.
Tanking for Williams.
Yep. And now the Bears have taken that over, and Arizona's playing tough.
The Bears own
win a couple more games.
Bears own the number 1 and 2 picks in the draft this coming year right now.
Yeah. So
the interesting thing though is that Burrow is in our top 6 quarterbacks this week.
I think it's just matchup. I think it's just the matchup.
It could be.
Yeah.
Waiver wire next up was, and this is it depends on your league. Kieran Williams, if he's still available,
go get him.
Yeah. He was drafted in my 16 teamer. In our dynasty, he's on a team. He for the most part he may be gone, but he could be available in 8-10 team leagues. So at least take a look.
Yeah, he's a guy that if he's out there, definitely pick him up. I mean, even last year, even still with Kareem Hunt, because he was a rookie last year, I believe, and got hurt in preseason. And when he was starting to come back, the Rams were throwing his name a lot. They really like him, and he's getting tons of volume right now. I mean, that's 3 touchdowns this week. If you're one of the lucky few fantasy teams out there that has depth at running back, and you have Kyron Williams, flex or bench even some, if you're that loaded, I would, we were going to bring him up,
as a sell.
Might as well just start that right now as a sell high candidate, or potentially, we say buy low, but you go to somebody and be like, look, Cooper Kupp's coming back probably this week. They got Puka, got Tutu Atwell. They're gonna, you're gonna see a lot more of those run through the pass, kind of plays with Cooper Kupp and Puka and stuff like that. So
it's interesting.
You try and sell his usage is going to go down. Probably more touchdowns to the receiving core. Tyler Higbee just got paid. He's always a threat in the red zone. But on the same side, you go, but he's the only running back worth anything in LA, and that counts for something. So he's one of those weird. I think if you have him, you keep him, unless, like I said, somehow you have enough pieces that you can turn him into an upgrade at another position.
Right.
He's one of those weird tough ones.
Well, and right. I mean, you look at with Cooper Kupp coming back. Well, the expectation is that he's coming back.
Yep.
So let's say that they throw Cooper Kupp out there. Van Jefferson loses in that.
Oh, yeah.
Does Puka actually lose in that? I don't know that he does. He may lose some targets.
Well, yeah, he's going to go from 20 targets to 15.
Okay.
12.
And let's say he increases his catch percentage because he's not covered by the one defender.
Or maybe higher quality receptions.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, I've got him as a sell high, but is he really a sell high?
Mm-hmm.
He could end up, he scored his first touchdown. He hadn't scored any touchdowns and he was still leading the league.
Yeah.
Or close to it. So you have to ask yourself, is he worth, is his situation going to remain where it is or get a little better? Or is it going to get worse? And if you think it's going to get worse, then sell him high.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, Puka, I'll take Puka. I'll give you, people are going to give you pieces for Puka.
Yeah.
However, like I've said, we think about it from the perspective of what will impact that. Well, if you've got Puka on one side and you've got Cooper Kupp on the other, and now you've got Williams. So they're drawing a lot. The safeties don't come down, and now Kieran Williams is running more. Then both of them lose. Yeah. So it's really I don't know that. I mean, I guess it's a decent problem to have, but I don't want that problem in a sense.
Also, I think too, a lot of it hinges on the health of Stafford. He's got some hip.
Right.
He got a hip contusion.
And I didn't put him on there because of right.
Shouldn't affect his availability. Might affect performance just a little bit. If he's not able to, slide in, move in the pocket, or if he's got to scramble a little bit, might hinder that a little bit. But, long term, he should be fine. But so those Rams pieces are all very tough, those top pieces of what you could or what you don't want to do or what you want to, they're all tough because right now they all, with Kupp coming back either this week or next week, sounds like this week, but again, they haven't really said anything.
Right.
It's one of those, do I take the gamble and sell high? And, if you get the right piece, it'll probably end up being a wash anyways. But if you use it to upgrade at another position, then it's a plus. But,
right.
All those guys are so tough. Right. Kyron and Puka are they're so tough on, you're just kind of stuck. It's almost, I'd take a wait and see instead of just being like, oh shit, I gotta get rid of I gotta get rid of these guys.
But your ability to sell high is right now.
Yes. Yeah.
If he has a couple of bad weeks, because Kupp is back, your chance of selling at that inflated value goes away.
Yeah.
So if you think he's going to stay the same or get better because of Kupp, then you keep him.
Yep.
If you don't, then he's definitely a sell high candidate.
Yeah.
Another one I've got is for the second week in a row is Davante Adams. He did well again this week
with the backup quarterback.
With the backup quarterback, yeah. I just once again I don't foresee it continuing. I think I could be wrong.
Yeah. Again, he's one of those two that some whispers always kind of creep out about him getting moved, traded to another team, that
could be huge.
Afford him, so he's also one of those that if he has a down week, he slides into the buy low category, but if he has a bigger week, then he's back in favor of the Davante manager, so that's kind of a fluid, ever-changing kind of situation there with him, but as it stands, definitely, he's just so good, he's just so good. That's the problem. Trying to get rid of him,
seller's remorse.
Yes, kind of, and that's what stinks about making trades is because you're sitting there and you're like, is this the right decision? And you don't know until you either make the trade or you don't. So it's there's a reason why BJ's made one trade in 14 years. Yeah. BJ's only ever made one trade.
I don't think he knows how to spell because the TRADE button is the one he should be hitting.
He chickens out.
Okay.
He gets cold feet. You sit there and talk trade with him, and he's like, oh, yeah. And then finally, I had to talk him into the trade that one trade he made with Isaac, and it ended up biting him in the butt because it was the Kyle Pitts. And the last couple weeks where he did horrible after he had that huge beginning, his rookie year, and then didn't work out, so he's like, I'm never trading.
Yeah, I am a big proponent of trading. Yeah. I tend to trade every year in as many leagues as I can. Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you just have to be, let's try something new. Now, I'm usually a 2-for-1 trader, so I'm giving 2. Getting 1, so I'm improving one area and giving 2 guys who additively are better than the one player, but by themselves are not better than the one player. It's the way I've always done it. Last sell high is Justin Fields. I know you're saying Justin Fields. Who the heck would want? Justin Fields had a great game this past weekend
as a passer as well.
As a passer.
He didn't go over 50 yards rushing and didn't score a rushing touchdown. It was all through the air.
4 passing touchdowns and 300
something
some yards.
So that's where I think the sell high makes sense, because you have to sit there and ask yourself, is that Justin Fields is figuring out the passing game, or is it that 2 weeks in a row now Denver has been just completely abused on the defensive side?
Yeah.
Now
in our mind, it's probably the latter.
Yep.
It's that they play Denver, but
Yep.
if you can find someone out there and again, be a salesman.
Huh?
It's, you know what? Gosh, he looks like he really turned the corner. He's going to be, not only does he have the capability to run,
Mhm.
he can throw the ball.
Yeah.
And he throws it well. And if you can sell someone on that, by all means, do it. Because
Might be able to, if you believe in him and that he'll turn it around and get healthy, you go find the Burrow manager and say, hey, Burrow stinks so far. Fields had a good game, figuring it out, has that rushing upside, which Burrow does not. Justin Fields he's gonna have huge games like this.
Right.
It's gonna happen. Whether it's consistent, probably not. Because that's a weird situation in Chicago as well. If they keep losing, do they move off of Justin Fields already? Or do they sit him down? Or
my buddy,
is there going to be a coaching change?
my buddy from Chicago
Again?
says no matter who they bring in at quarterback there, they're going to ruin him.
Yeah, I think that needs an entire purge, ownership, front office.
I think my buddy Phil would agree with you.
To that new location, start fresh. I know there's all the history at Soldier Field and the Bears organization and the McCaskies, right?
Yep.
I know there's all that history, but if you truly want to turn it around for Chicago, figure out a way to wipe it all clean.
Yeah, agreed.
Good luck, but that's what it would take.
So, did we hit all of our...
I don't think we did our buy lows.
We didn't do our
yet.
buy lows. So, our buy lows, first off, is T. Higgins, and I'll throw
Probably.
Joey Burrow in with him.
Especially with the Higgins rib injury, probably get him like 75% off right now. That's just how bad the Bengals have been.
Yeah,
You can probably get them fairly cheap.
Yeah, I'm making an effort.
Yeah.
I've been making an effort for 3 weeks because he's been playing poorly, and we'll see if I'm trying to trade with that GM that has Connor and McKinnon as his two starters.
Yeah.
Granted, my running backs beyond my two starters, I've got Akers and Philadelphia Gainwell.
Yep.
So at least they're a step up or a potential step up from McKinnon.
Yeah.
You can't count on McKinnon from week to week, obviously. So I would go with trying to get either of those two, and you should be able to, get those owners to think, you're in a bad spot.
Yep.
I'll take a chance. I'll take your garbage. You take mine.
Yeah.
The last one is Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep.
He has not looked good yet this year. It's funny because I drafted him as my second running back.
Yeah.
I think I picked him in the third round.
Which at that point was not a steal, but a good value in the third round.
Yeah, that was the
especially
33rd pick.
in that league,
Right. He just hasn't done anything.
Yeah,
their
the
passing
usage
game has
is
been
there. I mean, he's still dominating, the backfield touches. They came out, of course, I think it was just Belichick trying to do mind games with Dallas, and then Dallas came and punched him right in the mouth, so it didn't matter, but, they came out and like, Zeke's going to see starter level, opportunities this week, and it was like 14 carries to 6, for in Ramondre's favor. So, they've got New Orleans, and then I believe a bye after that, if I'm thinking correctly. So, if he comes out, maybe it's one other matchup and then a bye. So if he comes out next week or this week, New Orleans run defense is one of the best in the leagues, and
right. So
if
don't
he
have
comes
huge
out-
expectations.
yeah, if he comes out and duds or is kind of meh again, he's definitely a guy that you could probably go and in the right situation, if he's not the primary running back on that roster, for the fantasy manager, you find out what they need and you send them a piece, or two, kind of like you, 2 for 1. Some other pieces to help fill out that roster for that manager, and you might be able to get him because rest of the season he's got a pretty running back friendly schedule. So potentially late in the season making a push could really help you if you're able to wrangle him.
Exactly. So we move on to our loser of the week. And I don't know if you've had anyone yet that you've noticed.
Yeah, I didn't even take a peek.
In one of our leagues, it's actually the same league that the person played Acres 2 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. A different player decided to leave Austin Eckler in I think it was their flex position.
Yeah.
And again, I ask why. Why are you not paying attention to your roster on a week-to-week basis? It literally takes 5 or 10 minutes to find out if people are in or out beforehand. And I think Eckler was ruled out well in advance of the game.
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk of him coming back this last week, and then got downgraded probably at least the day before,
Right.
You would imagine. So, yeah, I agree. You just got to pay attention. That's one of my pet peeves too, is when somebody just doesn't pay attention, or
it can impact games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last thing I want to do is have someone get a bye week because someone isn't playing
and
anyone in that position.
Yeah, an optimal lineup.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, no one. Oh well, I shouldn't say no one, because every once in a while you'll hit an optimal lineup.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you still try.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what you're shooting for. You're trying to get all of the points that you can out of your team, and it may let you win a game. So you, my friend, are our loser of the week. So we did want to mention that there's a Thursday game, obviously, Chicago at Washington. Could be an interesting game.
Could be.
My friend from Illinois is actually coming up, and we're going to do some camping this weekend, so we'll probably watch it Thursday night.
Have plenty to talk about.
I don't think he'll want to talk about it. So, and then Sunday a.m. Jacksonville stays over in the other half of the world and plays against Buffalo.
Yeah, and they same thing. Against that was Atlanta. Look kind of flat. Lawrence hasn't looked that great. Ridley the last couple of weeks has not been, what he was week 1. It's not time to panic yet on Calvin Ridley. He'll be fine. Christian Kirk has been kind of the guy. Same with, they got Evan Ingram really involved in that second half. I mean, they were drawing up plays for him. So I think they'll be okay. With Buffalo, like we said, their run defense isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I did hear some whispers about Von Miller making a comeback pretty soon here, because I think he tore his ACL last year. So I don't think it'll be this week, but going forward, Buffalo, defense will probably get a little boost.
Right.
I mean, but granted, Buffalo did hold, 70-point Miami to 20-something points, I believe. 20. So, I mean, they're an okay defense, but should be interesting. I think ETN will have a decent game. Probably Ingram again, but that'll probably go Buffalo's way pretty healthily again. So
agreed.
Buffalo Bills.
So because we're not going to have a Friday podcast, we're going to do our picks of the week today, and we will not be doing a love 'em, leave 'em, flip 'em, love 'em, flip 'em, leave 'em.
Yeah, whichever way it goes.
So our picks of the week, QB, the top 6 ranked are Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Lamar Jackson, and Joey Burrow. So I decided to go with Richardson versus Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Tennessee has a decent defense, but Richardson can bring it from 2 different ways. You get a running quarterback. It changes things for a defense.
Yeah, I mean, they came out, Rams put up like 20-21 on them. It was like 21-0 or 20-0, going into the second half, I believe, and then they kind of came alive. And
Right.
Richardson just gets that boost with that rushing upside, with the touchdowns.
Right.
It was, Pittman didn't have that great of a game. Just some errant throws, some bad targets, or low quality targets from Richardson. So, and like we talked about, with Burrow dudding against Tennessee, they're a pass funnel, team. So, hopefully maybe see a little bit more of that cannon that Richardson's got. I mean, that dude he can throw that. He can sling that sucker.
Yes, he can.
I like it. With, like I said, with just the pure upside of the rushing. I think he's going to end up being, season long being, him and Stroud are going to end up being
1 and 2 or
for rookies and top 12 quarterbacks at the end of the season for
very
fantasy.
possibly. Yeah.
So, I'm going for a get right game in Jordan Love versus
Homer.
Yep. Well, against the Raiders, if you want to get right game, that's a defensive target. You got Watson back, fully healthy, hopefully. Aaron Jones fully healthy. They were on a snap count. Everybody after that game, I just hear, they don't know how to use Aaron Jones and all this, and it's like, well,
you shouldn't have expected him to play much.
Yeah.
In reality, coming back from the injury.
Yeah. So,
temper expectations.
Watson. Watson was okay last week because he ended up with that touchdown.
Right.
But, not a lot of yardage, but with the touchdown. So, I just think with some pieces coming back, granted, Bakhtiari's on IR.
That line is horrible.
I think Bakhtiari, we've talked about that. We've got to get rid of him. I think
can't afford to.
Which sucks because
you can't afford to get rid of him this year because I believe all of the cap for next year, the dead money comes into this year if we drop him or he retires.
Gotcha. So, whatever. Next year, do what you. It's just rip the Band-Aid off. Same with Rodgers, where we're kind of stuck with you. Rip the Band-Aid off. You don't want to wait too long, which seems like we might have waited too long.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that they don't give Yosh Nijman a chance to play.
Yeah, and he's been around for a couple of years,
hasn't he? Yeah. He was their main guy filling in at left tackle all the times that, over the last 1.5 years when Bakhtiari wasn't playing. So to see Rasheed Wallace in there instead, I don't dislike Rasheed Wallace, but they gave $4 or $5 million to Yosh Nijman to remain as the backup left tackle. Our left tackle is out. He's not playing.
Yeah.
He's not playing right. It's just it kind of confused me. Yeah. So that's the one thing that scares me right now.
Especially with Max Crosby lining up against
the
backup.
It's not as bad as like the Giants or possibly Cincinnati's offensive line, but it's getting there because you've got 2 All-Pro guys off of the left end. And then another guy got hurt, and it's a mess when you don't have anyone to play out there.
Yep.
So moving on to running back, we've got obviously McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. I'm going to say it the right way, Devon Achane. Mostert, Achane and Mostert are both on there. Jacobs and Kyren Williams, or Kyren. So I am going to go not Bijan like I did last week.
I laughed. I saw you had to write it out all the way.
I did because I probably would have confused myself by having B. Robinson there. Yep. But it's Brian Robinson playing versus the Bears.
Yep.
The Bears are a bad defense.
Just gave up, was it 2 touchdowns to McLaughlin, I believe?
Yep.
Yeah, so, a backup
right.
Back.
And it seems like no second back there.
Gibson gets a few carries, but if he fumbles, he gets benched.
And he fumbled last week.
Butterfingers, so
so Brian Robinson is the guy there, and I just think going against the Chicago defense, that could be a monster game.
Yeah, yep, I totally agree. I like it because weeks 1 and 2 put up monster games. So he's definitely he's capable of doing it. just need Howell to play a little better to take some pressure off of, Brian Robinson and that line as well, because Howell hasn't been that great.
Looked pretty good against Philadelphia this past weekend.
But
I mean, they were beating Philadelphia and easily could have won that game.
Yep. So I agree. Matchups there, usage is there. He's a good running back. I'm gonna chase some points here. Chasing a lot of points. I'm going Montgomery from Detroit against Carolina.
Hoping for a repeat.
Yep. Looking back to even you look at last year with the Bears. Or sorry, not the Bears. The Lions. We were just talking about the Bears. The Lions. They've got a big workhorse body type running back. Granted, we know Jamal's not a workhorse running back, but he's, that size, has a nose for the end zone. And then you've got the smaller, more explosive, if you will, big playability running back, like they had DeAndre Swift, who couldn't stay healthy, but now they got Jahmyr Gibbs, who there's, obviously fantasy managers are very pissed off at Detroit. But, Montgomery's putting these stat lines. It just kind of seems like that's the way Detroit is. They have these two guys, but it seems like the physically bigger of the two is the one who is benefiting more on the fantasy side of it. So, against Carolina, with Bryce Young, they're kind of struggling a little bit, offensively. Lions could get up 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, run. And even when they get up, I mean, you saw against Green Bay, Montgomery ends with 32 carries.
Right.
There's a potential he gets 20-plus carries again this week, which, and that offensive line for Detroit is so good. They're a very good offensive line. So I think he's just, the usage and the matchup is there. I think he could have another gigantic week.
I agree. Let's move up to the wide receivers. We've got Tyreek Hill. We've got Devontae Adams. We've got Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. The only one who surprises me in there is Cooper Kupp because he hasn't played this year.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go A.J. Brown versus the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown has been putting up some big numbers. Philadelphia wins with A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Hurts, yes, he can run those short touchdowns, but A.J. Brown is the big yardage guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, granted, they do a lot with their running backs, too.
Yeah.
I just see going against LA, it's it should be a closer game, so I think they're going to need to stay with the pass, and I'm hoping that Jalen Hurts at least is back to his, a little bit back to his normal self.
Yeah, I mean, that was the formula last year for the Eagles. Those big, one-off 40-plus yard throws that turn into touchdowns.
Right.
Super efficient at scoring. That was, like I said, that was their formula last year, getting up big and then just front running and maintaining the second half. So you see a lot more of the, DeAndre Swift, so, but yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown, he's just, when he has a game like that, there's nobody that can, he just can't be stopped. And he's such a big guy too, that even if he catches a 7-yard slant, not a lot of people want to stick their neck in and try and make a tackle on him because he's tough to bring down. So yeah, I mean, I love watching A.J. Brown too because he's one of those guys that you just could break something or a long touchdown or high point a ball over a DB in the back of the end. Like he's fun to watch. So.
He is.
I kind of looking through, figure maybe a little more. I wouldn't call it a dart throw, but a guy who missed a week and then came back and wasn't that great because of the blowout. But I'm going Jalen Waddle against the Giants. The Giants are going to have a tough time on defense. This could be another high-scoring game for Miami, especially from them getting pushed around by Buffalo. They're going to come in pissed off, blow off some steam on this team. And, if you're the Giants, you got to try and contain, stop to what you can, but you can't stop them for Tyreek Hill, and I think that's going to leave Waddle.
Well, and Mostert.
So either Waddle's going to have 3 catches for 40 yards, or he's going to have 4 catches for 110 and a touchdown.
Right.
I feel like that's going to be kind of his,
Well,
potential
and they've
stat
already
lines.
shown that, they're not against putting up 70 points on a team.
Yeah.
So if you're not against putting up 70 points on a team, well, they're going. I mean, granted, a lot of that was. I mean, you had 404 touchdowns out of your
that was crazy.
running backs.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yep.
So, excuse me. So at least they that they'll throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're willing to do whatever it takes to get up, and they keep their starters in for the most part, and they'll crush you if they have to.
Yeah.
Moving on to tight end, we've got Kelsey Andrews, who had a huge week this past week.
Thank you.
Kittle, Taysom Hill, who still hasn't impressed me much.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, and Hawkinson. So I am a repeat performer. I went with Laporta again. I just love, and I said it last week.
Yeah.
I think he is one of those. He's in the mold of Kelsey Andrews, Hawkinson. Yeah. They're going to utilize him a lot. He's going to be a top 5 tight end for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think even next year, if he keeps doing what he's doing, I think next year he's going to end up as. I think you'll still have Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, and then I think it's going to be Laporta.
Yeah, very well could be.
That's the way I think a lot of drafts are going to go. Or somebody taking a shot on a second-year bigger breakout out of Laporta over a Hawkinson, who Vikings could have a change potentially at quarterback. Who knows? That's a kind of a something to monitor too. But yeah, I mean Laporta's been great.
Right.
Good targets, good value targets. Amon-Ra's getting healthy, from the toe, so he draws a lot of, and like I said, this could be a game where Detroit gets up a couple touchdowns, and if one goes Laporta's way, or he just, a lot of targets and yardage, I mean, he's been solid. If you, like you get lucky and you draft Kelsey or Andrews and you took Laporta late or picked him up, he's a trade away, sell high as well. If you have the means to, he's like I said, he's just been very, very good so far. So I'm going with a guy that gets a lot of targets.
He does.
Been in the league a long time. It's a name everybody has either love him or hate him. It's Zach Ertz against Cincinnati.
I think he may be leading the league in targets right now.
Yeah,
for tight ends.
He had
30?
10 one week, and he's averaging I think 6 or 7 targets.
I think
a week.
he has 30 targets so far through 4.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a Bengals team that gave up 27 points to, Derrick Henry, but Ryan Tannehill. I mean, they were moving the ball fairly well against Cincinnati. That defense is getting, they're out on the field a lot, so they're tired and getting worn down. That's kind of what happened with the Browns against the Ravens. The Browns offense couldn't move the ball. Defense is out there. The Browns have a really good defense, but Ravens were able to take advantage because they're tired, and so you spend a lot of time out there and you make mistakes. But,
right.
So I think Ertz, like I said, the Arizona's been surprisingly tough and playing good for that, really well actually for that roster.
Well, you look at the fact that they beat Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas has looked good, every week but one?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, they made the Giants look terrible. They made, who did they just play?
San Fran?
No. Who did they just...
Arizona or Dallas?
Dallas.
New England.
New England, right.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I'm actually trying to get Ertz, and I'm going to try and play him instead of Kincaid this week.
Yeah, I think especially in a PPR, even half point. I mean, at all, just because he gets all those targets.
Right.
But especially in half point at full, bye weeks, everything coming up. Starting to cycle through. You get, he's a guy whatever Andrews goes on by. If he continues this, he's a potential target. For a streamer if he's still out there. I mean, he's got value. Because they're slinging the ball. Dobbs is playing good. They're throwing it.
Right.
You got maybe an emergence of Michael Wilson to take some pressure off the middle part of the defense, which is where Ertz has always excelled. So I think he's got a chance here against a very badly struggling Cincinnati team. And
Agreed.
Arizona might take this one and win against the Bengals.
It wouldn't surprise me actually
No.
at all right
Yeah.
now with the way that the Bengals have been playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, if they can beat Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
they can easily beat
Oh yeah.
Cincinnati when Cincinnati is not playing well.
Yep.
So that's all we've got for this week. Hope you either listen in or watch the show on YouTube. Otherwise, I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great one.
Bye.